Alright, welcome to another video on solving algebraic equations. This video, just follow along. Hopefully you watched my other video on solving equations and most of this is familiar, some practice with it. Remember in the last lesson I talked about the balance and how on the left hand of the side you have a certain amount and it's equal to this amount. So if I do anything to this side, I'm going to have to do the same thing to this side in order to keep this balance level. So let's begin. First thing I want to do is start isolating my variable. So I will subtract 7 from each side. 53 minus 7 is 46. And here we're left with 2x. Now I could divide by 2 or I could multiply by 1/2 to get the x by itself. Let's multiply it by 1/2. It's the same thing. It's the same thing as dividing it by 2. But anyway, those cancel. 46 divided by 2 is 23. So x equals 23. Plug it in to check it. Next problem. Notice there's 2 x's. We're going to simplify the terms first and then we'll solve. So I like having my variables on the left hand side, so we will add this x to each side. These x's will cancel. We're left with 3x plus x, which is 4x, equals 40. Now we're going to multiply each side by 1/4 so that this 4 cancels, leaving us with just x equals 10. Plugging it in, you see 10 times 3 is 30, and 30 is equal to 40 minus 10, which is 30, so it's true. Next problem, we're going to simplify the terms. So we have a 2x and a minus x on this side, and a minus x has the 1 in front of it. You just don't have to write it, so 2x minus 1x is 1x. So we have x plus 3 equals 22. Now we're going to subtract 3 from each side to keep the balance level. 22 minus 3 is 19. X equals 19. In this last one, we have 13x plus 5 equals 31. So first thing we're going to do is subtract 5 from each side to keep the balance. That cancels to 0. 31 minus 5 is 26. 13x equals 26. Now to get the x isolated, isolating the variable, remember, is when it's just a positive one of that variable equals something else. So we're going to divide each side by 13, or you could think of it as multiplying by 1/13. Either way, on each side. Either way, we get x is equal to 2, and you could plug it in to check it. And let's continue. Alright, here's some more problems to work on. First one is 3x equals 12. First thing you do is divide each side by 3. 3's cancel. 12 divided by 3 is 4. X equals 4. See if you're correct. Plug it in. 3 times 4 is 12. It's true. Next problem. What do you do first? Subtract 7 from both sides. 23 minus 7 is 16. Next step, isolate the variable so you can divide each side by 4, leaving x equals 4. Next problem, 2 times quantity x minus 3 equals 22. This is referring to the distributive property, so first we'll distribute. the 2 through the x and the negative 3, giving 2x minus 6. Remember, I'll write it over here. A times b plus c is equal to ab plus ac. So you multiply, distribute that term through. Next thing you have to do is add the 6 to each side. That cancels there. 22 plus 6 is 28. 2x equals 28. And divide each side by 2, or do the same exact thing and multiply by 1/2, doesn't matter. Let's cancel. 28 divided by 2 is 14, so x equals 14. You could plug it in to check it. 3 times the quantity of x minus 1 equals 6. This is also using the distributive property. So we'll distribute this 3 through both terms in the parentheses. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3, and that's equal to 6. Add 3 to each side, keeping the balance level in order to isolate the variable all by himself. But you can't just do it to this side, otherwise the balance tilts, so you have to also do it to this side. 6 plus 3 is 9. 3x equals 9. Now, next step, divide each side by 3, and x is equal to 3. You plug in your answer to verify that you're correct. Next problem is 2x over 3 equals 8. So you can rewrite it as 2x over 3 is equal to 8. So you could either multiply by 3 and then divide by 2 on each side, or you can realize that this is 2/3 x is equal to 8. So all you have to do is you can do it all in one step by multiplying 3/2 on each side. This cancels and this cancels, leaving you just with x. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. And all you have to do to verify is plug it in. 2 times 12 is 24. 24 divided by 3 is 8. That's true. Last one. 5x minus 25 equals 25. First step, add 25 to each side. This cancels. 25 plus 25 is 50. So we have 5x equals 50. You can multiply each side by 1/5. This isolates the variable. We have x equals 50 divided by 5, which is 10. Alright. Okay, let's practice a few more problems before the end of this video. The problem at the top here on the top left, 3 times 2x plus 4 equals 18. We need to distribute this 3 through this 2x plus 4. So 3 times 2x, 6x. 3 times 4 is 12. And that's equal to 18. What do we do now? We subtract 12 from each side. Gives us 6x equals 6. And then we divide each side by 6. And x is equal to 1. To verify, you plug your x in. Next problem, we have 1/4 times x plus 3 equals 2. And notice we could distribute through, but I want to show you another example. Like here, we could have also divided each side by 3 to remove this term here, since it's going to be distributed through anyway. So here we can simply multiply each side by 4, and this 1/4 and this 4 will cancel, and we're left with x plus 3 equals 8. Then we could subtract 3 from each side, and we're left with x equals 5. Okay. In this problem, we could use a similar approach. You could, for one, you can notice that this is 25 and take care of it right away, or you can first divide by 5. Since you're dividing by 5, that's really the same as multiplying by 1/5, but here it's actually going to be an example where it might make a little more sense by using 1/5. So this gives 1/25 over here, and we're left with is that is equal to 5x. You divide each side by 5, or times 1/5. Let's see. It's 125 is equal to x. 1 over 125 is equal to x. And just because it's an odd number, like huge fraction, doesn't really mean it's not right. So how would you figure out if you were right? You'd plug your answer in. Okay, so 12x plus 12 equals 12. What's the first step? Subtract 12 from each side. What's 12 minus 12? Well, that's 0. So we have 12x equals 0. Then what do? Divide each side by 12, or multiply by 1/12. Same thing. Literally. 12 divided by 12 is 1. 0 divided by 12 is 0. So x is equal to 0. To verify, plug it in. Next problem. 4r minus 1 equals 1. And you add 1 to each side of this one because this is negative. So to make this 0, to isolate this term, you need to add 1 to each side. 1 plus 1 is 2. So we have 4r equals 2. Divide each side by 4 or multiply by 1/4. 1/2 is what this reduces to. So you have r is equal to 1/2. And the last problem, we have something that looks extremely similar to this problem over here. Difference being parentheses around the r minus 1. So these two things here are not equal to each other because this 4 is going to be distributed, so this would have to be a negative 4 for those to be equal. So anyway, distribute the 4 through or divide by 4 now, your choice. We'll just divide the whole thing by 4. So we get r minus 1 is equal to 1/4. And we add 1 to each side, which this cancels to 0, and then over here we'll put it in this form because this is still 1, right? But that way it's easy to add. So we have 4/4 plus 1/4, and r is equal to 5/4. And how would you check this? Plug it in. So this may seem a little bit repetitive, but that's pretty much all there is to it. I'll get into some harder problems in upcoming videos. Thanks for watching.